An epic collapse.
And Donald Trump was seriously going to be a very, very small chapter in the book.
By the Republicans and by the Trump administration.
President Trump has just been impeached.
President Donald Trump has become just the third president in U.S. history to be impeached.
A day for the history book.
Written about in the history book. We begin with breaking impeachment news.
Wrong. That's the latest of that explosive coronavirus outbreak.
Infection records daily. Dozens of hospitals at capacity.
The CDC now reporting coronavirus cases among children are steadily rising.
In total reported more than 22,000 new cases.
Coronavirus rises in the U.S.
We are reopening even as case numbers climb.
As Donald Trump's first term comes to a close with the general election months away, Donald Trump's presidency has weathered scandals, impeachment, social unrest, and a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. President Trump's administration from its early days stoked controversy. Hours after being sworn in as president, President Trump signed executive orders unraveling one of his predecessor's most significant achievements, the Affordable Care Act, or otherwise known as Obamacare, and as well as pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Days later, President Trump signed orders relating to the environment with the reauthorization of the Keystone Pipeline, which President Obama stopped. President Trump also signed several orders relating to a campaign issue, immigration. Trump wanted a fight. He lived for the fight. During the 2016 campaign, President Trump has stoked controversy and conflict.
From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
Donald Trump is used to chaos. It is what he has lived for a very long time, and in its environment he does well in. When Trump was young, he saw the destruction of his older brother, Fred Trump Jr. Fred Trump Jr. was in line to inherit his father's business of real estate development, but he broke with the family business and wanted to become an airline pilot. Donald thought this was crazy, and seeing him the way his father saw him, a disappointment. Fred Trump installed in his kids, especially the boys, to be killers. Donald decided he would not repeat Fred Jr.'s mistakes and wanted to be a killer. Donald Trump seeks attention, fame, and the reputation of being a killer, and the presidency is the ultimate testament of that. However, unlike for Trump, this is not Joe Biden's first election or presidential election either. Joe Biden's first run for the White House was in 1987, 33 years ago. Joe Biden has had a decades-long stance in the public eye. When Joe Biden announced he was going to run in 1987, he was a strong and viable candidate. But as we see today, he has a habit of shooting himself in the foot with comments he makes. In 1987 primaries for the Democratic Party, Senator Biden had a bump with a reporter about his academic rhetoric.
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class.
Insulted, Joe Biden has always been sensitive to the idea he is being disrespected, and those moments tend to be Joe Biden's worst. Biden had a partial scholarship for financial reasons, not for merit. He also finished 76 out of 85 students in his class, not the top half. Joe Biden was not able to define himself. An imposter syndrome, where you feel you need to be different than you are. At one of the Democratic debates, he gave this great closing speech, but it turns out he plagiarized this speech from Neil Kinnock, a British politician, lifting several lines from it.
Why am I the first Kinnock in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations?
And I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university? Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
The story is that Joe Biden kept watching it. He felt he could put himself into it. He made it his own. This became Frontline news, and while Biden's campaign said it was just a mistake, more and more claims came out about other instances of plagiarism, like forgetting to cite a law, school paper, or attributing quotes to RFK. While Biden admitted his mistakes, he dropped out of the race, and for the Biden family, it was a heavy loss. Now as Joe Biden accepts a nomination, the scene has been set for a nasty election season.
Instead of looking for solutions, we look to score political points.
4 more years.
And let's take back this country. United States of America.
We will make America great again.
Donald Trump grew up in a household where his father being a dominant presence, his father was also very stern and very tough. Fred Trump wanted his boys to win, to do whatever, and he engraved that message into them. Donald at the age of 13 was a wild child, very impulsive and getting into trouble, so his father sent him to a military school. Donald told Timothy O'Brien, the author of Trump Nation, that when he arrived at the academy, it was the first time in his life he was slapped in the face if he got out of line. Donald really thrived in this environment. It gave him lessons on how to be a bully. According to his classmates, he would scream, yell, even beat you with a broomstick if you did not follow his orders or do the right thing. Donald became a student leader. He had classmates serving under him and ruled the dorms as really a tyrant. In this brutal environment, Donald loved it. He lived for the competition. While not popular though, he loved it. Donald at the time learned the skill of bullying to get what you want, and he carries it on essentially to today. When Joe Biden was growing up, he had a stutter. At that time, it was thought of as an illness called retarded speech. Biden at this point went to Catholic school, and one day in his class, he had this assignment to read this phrase out loud. The first line was, "Sir Walter Raleigh was a gentleman." When Joe read it, he read it as, "Sir Walter Raleigh was a gentleman." And his teacher asked, "What?" And so Biden read it again and did it 3 times. His teacher was dressing him and mimicked his stutter, and Biden, being extremely embarrassed, walked all the way home. When he got home, his mother, Jean, took him right back to confront his teacher. They marched right into the room, and Biden's mother asked his teacher about it, and the nun said she was just trying to make a point. And so his mother said, "If you ever talk to my son like that again, I'll come back and rip that dang bonnet off your head." What did Joe Biden do? He was going to beat it. So at night, he would stand in front of his mirror with a flashlight repeating different paragraphs from books or newspaper clippings. Being determined, he pushed back against the bullies. He became actually well liked, and people enjoyed being around him. He became president of the senior class, and it really introduced him to politics, and he enjoyed it. Trump wanted to break out of his father's shadow. He wanted to do more than his father, become more. Donald Trump was breaking into the New York scene, and with his new girl Ivana, Donald thought what better way to get the attention of the room he enters than with a 6-foot blonde model at his arm. Donald Trump came across this plot of land. He was going to build a tower with his name on it, Trump Tower. Trump personally marketed the apartments using his name to affirm the luxury and status it comes with. Trump had an idea to sell more apartments. He decided to inflate the floor numbers. From the 58-story building, it became a 68-story building. The idea was you would rather be on the 20th floor than the 10th floor. The higher the apartment, the better it looked. The opening was a spectacle. It really was a party. The tower is really Donald Trump though. It is big, bold, highly marketed. At the time, it was when he first tasted what it was like to be a celebrity. Trump loves the spotlight and had proof that he was a winner, a killer. In Wilmington, Delaware, Joe Biden's start was rough. He was running for a Senate seat against incumbent Cal Boggs, very popular in the state and an ally of then President Nixon. So for him, it was an uphill battle, and a lot of people said, if not everyone said, he would lose. In the country at the time, the Vietnam War was dividing the nation, and in Wilmington, Delaware, race ignited fierce protests and unrest. Joe Biden used his skill, making it personal and connecting to people all over the state. Joe Biden understands people. It's one of his great strengths. Biden's friend Richard Smith, or Mouse, met at the pool Biden worked at and became really good friends. Ricky showed him around his community, and Biden made deep relations with the black community. Biden did not campaign as a politician, making promises. Biden campaigned doing what he does best, meeting new people and, just hugging them. Election night came in 1972. Nixon won in a landslide, but Biden, with the support from the black community, won his Senate race. While very close, he won. At 30, Joe Biden almost had everything and was about to take his place in the Senate. Amelia Biden, Joe's wife, first met at a beach over college spring break and fell in love, and had 3 children, Beau, Hunter, and Naomi. Biden was in Washington with his sister Val, setting up his office and looking for staff. Val got a phone call about a car accident. Amelia and Naomi died on impact from a tractor trailer, and Biden's 2 sons seriously injured. Authorities were able to identify the bodies from the campaign flyers that flew out. Joe knew something was wrong from Val's facial expression. It would become some of the darkest days of his life. A single dad widow became a senator in the hospital room where his boys healed, but once again he pushed on. Biden worked in D.C. and he wanted to be home for dinner with the boys and his sister every night. Joe's brother introduced him to this girl, Jill. Joe fell in love. His boys really fell in love with her. Beau and Hunter pushed Joe to marry Jill, and Joe asked 5 times before she said yes. Joe said that she gave him back his family, his life. Jill wanted to teach. Jill took time off to be Beau and Hunter's mom. In their new family, there was no stepmom. According to Joe and Jill, there was only mom and mommy. Mommy died, and now there is only mom. In New York City, chaos reigned, and with stark racial divisions and wanting to raise his profile, Donald looked for something to embed himself into. The Central Park Five. Donald was raised by a man who openly discriminated against people of color, especially black people. So Trump took out a full-page ads in newspapers across New York City saying they should be executed. They should be afraid, and he even signed his name at the bottom. So everyone who read this would know it was him. That he was proud to be writing this. He wanted, and I quote, bring back law and order into the city, and did press on it. He learned if you could capture fear, you could use it to your advantage and become a champion for the people who were scared. Trump learned how to dip in and out of racial issues. When it became clear that these 5 people did not commit this crime and someone else did, Trump never apologized and still has not to this day.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
Trump is drawn into these divisive issues. Joe Biden, now the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, presented with a difficult issue. George W. Bush appointed Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court, but it unraveled when allegations came out of sexual misconduct by Thomas. Biden was very uncomfortable and at first reluctant to let Anita Hill testify. But the story quickly exploded, so Biden really had no choice. No one on that committee was a woman, so no one truly understood what happened. Republican members led the charge against Ms. Hill, questioning her memory and her story. Biden allowed members to grill her so harshly. When Thomas spoke, however, he compared this hearing into a lynching.
As a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves.
And it really shamed this committee full of white men. Biden moves to end the hearings, but it damaged him. His reputation was hurt politically. He needed a rehab to his image. Biden brought on and convinced newly elected Senator Carol Braun and Senator Dianne Feinstein to join the committee, only starting to build back the reputation he lost. Donald Trump, expanding his business, invested huge amounts of money into Atlantic City, into his Trump Taj Mahal, his largest project. He marketed it and told everyone how great it was, how large of a success it would be. Trump also had several other ventures, and like the Trump Taj, they fell into bankruptcy. Everyone told Trump that it was going to be a fail. Bankruptcy was coming, but Donald ignored the experts. Donald relied on what Roy Cohn taught him: attack. Roy Cohn was a part of the McCarthy trials, where Senator McCarthy dragged people in front of his committee and accused them of being communists and traitors, really embarrassing them and ruining their lives. Roy Cohn was a pit bull. He was a fixer. He attacks you at all angles and personal. Donald saw Cohn as a killer. Donald learned to attack the press when it covered him negatively and in chaos. Donald trusted Cohn, so he never admitted defeat, never admitted failure. As well as business loss, Donald had marital issues. Ivana wanted to work, and Donald let her run several of his hotels. Ivana was every bit as ambitious as Donald. Some say they were almost the same person. For Donald, he grew tiresome. Donald is the star. Ivana was encroaching on that. Donald was jealous of her and her success and became extremely angry when she did something he did not like. Ivana had 3 children with Donald, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. But the family did not last. Donald did cheat on her with Marla Maples and married her and had Tiffany Trump. At this time, he had chaos in his business and personal life. Joe Biden, if you think about it, is his own worst enemy. Biden remarked on his fellow presidential candidate, Senator Obama, saying, and I quote, "I mean, you got the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and a clean and nice looking guy." Biden said, I mean, that's a storybook, man. Joe Biden just does not know when to stop, and it often gets him into hot water. Joe Biden's campaign busted again, and he dropped out of the race. Joe Biden, however, did what he does best, making it personal. Biden started talking to then Senator Obama, forming a relationship, and it would eventually pay off when it was time for Obama to choose a running mate. According to people close to Obama, he liked the idea of choosing Biden, considering the things he said about him, showing he can work with the guy who said this, and key to Obama's win. Obama did ask Biden to be his vice president. Sources close to the family say that Biden did not want to do it. Biden's family wanted him to do it. His mother said something to the effect of, the first African American president thinks you can help him win, and you said no. As soon as this was said, Biden took a 180-degree turn and accepted Obama's offer. Biden, after a failed campaign, turned into a relationship, becoming vice president. Donald Trump needed a rebrand. He needed to solve its problems. Trump's bankers, when they decided the fate of Trump's companies, decided all his buildings, hotels, casinos are worth more with his name on them than in foreclosure. If they took Trump out, these buildings would lose the branding. The brand was worth so much that these bankers were willing to take a hit to keep it. His name is a key asset. So he sold his name, even though he did not own the buildings that he sold his name to. Trump figured if he was on TV, he was a celebrity, a success. The Apprentice exemplified that. It created this persona that Donald was an incredible business person and that he had a track record of success, even though it was at odds with reality. For 14 seasons, millions of Americans saw this Donald Trump, and he was never more popular than that time. His past record was almost forgotten, now a reality TV star. Everything he learned about being a celebrity was going to be a key part of his upcoming campaign. One of Vice President Biden's most key assets is his relations. Where President Obama could not, Biden was able to pick up the phone and really call any senator and they would answer. Because Biden had spent so long in the Senate forming these relationships, Republican and Democrat. Joe Biden figured in a 60 Minutes interview that his job was to take the time that the president could not and listen to the concerns and fears of the American people. Joe Biden, since his first campaign, has always loved the people aspect of politics. While for 30 years Joe Biden was his own boss, now Biden answers to Obama, but he got used to it. President Obama said Joe is not afraid to tell him what he thinks. Biden's first assignment, see that the $787 billion of the stimulus money to rebound from the Great Recession was spent wisely. Joe was reported to spend several hours a week on the phone with mayors and governors to nail in the rules of the stimulus money. At this point, the economy was a wreck. Unemployment was rising. America was in a war, so the Obama administration inherited, to put it lightly, a disaster. When President Obama came under attack, Biden was the chief rebutter and was out defending the administration's actions. While Joe Biden served, people seem to forget Biden's past, his major errors, because of what some call the Obama halo, which means if you're around President Obama or liked by him, you are instantly more popular because Obama was personally popular. This is an effect that Biden would benefit from when it was time for his run. As anger boiled over from Obama's Affordable Care Act passage, conspiracy swirled on the right side that Obama was not an American citizen. The beginning of the birther movement. Right-wing websites, talk radio shows spread it, and then, as always, the most divisive issues attracted Donald Trump. He joined in. Trump brought it into the mainstream and understood that this fear was boiling among Republicans and used it to his advantage. Trump made himself the face of the birther movement and went on TV and asked why we can't see the birth certificate, and went on radio shows and said it was one of the greatest scams ever. President Obama bent to their will and released more proof, eventually simmering down the issues in the mainstream. Commentators said that the entirety of the black community was racially profiled, that if this can happen to the most powerful man in the world, what can happen to them? Donald Trump appealed to that far-right group and used the fear that he was making and advanced himself in the minds of these people who believed Obama was not really an American. For him, it was almost like playing a game. In Newtown, Connecticut, at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, 20 children, 6 adults were gunned down. Obama was extremely emotional. Obama said that it was the first time he cried in the Oval Office.
Those who died today were children. Beautiful little kids between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own.
President Obama was moved. He felt the country was moved and wanted gun legislation, but he knew he could not do it. He was too controversial, so he delegated it to Vice President Biden. Biden turned to Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey to draft this bill. This bill proposed a modest change in the gun laws, and public support was strong, and Republicans signed on. Biden was extremely optimistic that this would pass. Right-wing sites, though, talk show radio, Fox News fought back. In InfoWars, it was claimed that the whole shooting itself was fake. One by one, Obama and Biden watched Republicans back out. Charlie Sykes said it the best. This is where you have the Republican Party held hostage by its base and the American politics held hostage by the Republican Party. The bill failed on the Senate floor by 5 votes. Biden was in disbelief, a huge setback for President Obama, and set the tone for what was to come in American politics. Obama invited the families over to the White House.
This pattern of spreading untruths about this legislation served a purpose, because those lies upset an intense minority of gun owners. And there were no coherent arguments as to why we wouldn't do this. It came down to politics. The worry that that vocal minority of gun owners would come after them in future elections. They worried that the gun lobby would spend a lot of money and paint them as anti-Second Amendment. So all in all, this was a pretty shameful day for Washington. But this effort is not over.
Obama was not able to get this one done, and Biden knew the pain of losing a child, so he was able to help these grieving parents. Biden used his grief to help others battling the same dark days he once faced. As the 2016 election heated up, a former colleague of Joe Biden in the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton, battled Donald Trump for control of the White House. This election season was especially brutal. Joe Biden decided to opt out of the race because Beau Biden had recently passed after a battle with cancer. So with his friend at his side in the Rose Garden, President Obama, he decided that he was not going to run in 2016. Biden, however, did take to the trail. Biden became the top attack dog for the Hillary campaign.
He has no clue about what makes America great. Actually, he has no clue, period. But folks, let me, no matter where you were raised, how can there be pleasure in saying you're fired? He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey. Biden traded insults with the candidate Donald Trump and campaigned for Clinton.
Election day came, and with a political upset, Donald Trump won. Donald Trump beat the odds. He was able to prove every pundit and poll wrong, and he was elected President of the United States. Donald Trump, on January 20, 2017, in front of the nation, became the most powerful person in the world, with Biden watching from the inaugural stage behind him. Joe Biden watched from the sidelines as Trump's presidency progressed and watched the events in Charlottesville break out. This is when Biden decided to run, when he saw how Trump reacted to the riots.
Okay, what about the alt-left that came charging him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
Trump said there was blame on both sides. Biden jumped into the race, and at the first debate came under attack by Senator Kamala Harris.
I not believe you are a racist, but I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. You know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Biden came out of the gate rough, and with heavy losses in many beginning states, it looked like what he was selling, no one was buying. South Carolina was the next contest. Biden needed a big win, and he counted on the black vote. Biden relied on his relations with black leaders like Jim Clyburn to get people out to the polls and vote. Biden achieved a sweeping win and carried that momentum to Super Tuesday, where he won big and then won it all. When the time came to select a running mate, he chose the person who came from the most, Kamala Harris. The pick shows that he values dissenting opinions as much as he values the ones he agrees with. And for the first time, a black woman was on a major party ticket. The Trump presidency came in a moment in history where the nation is still deciding what path we want our future to be. President Trump's first term, to put it best, has been chaotic. Now with the COVID-19 pandemic, President Trump stood in front of the podium and told America it is not a problem. It will go away.
We've been working very hard on this. We've made tremendous progress. When you compare what we've done to other areas of the world, it's pretty incredible. In the span of just a few short months, we've developed a testing capacity unmatched and unrivaled anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. This is a core element of our plan to safely and gradually reopen America, and we're opening and we're starting, and there's enthusiasm like I haven't seen in a long time.
So what do you say to Americans who are nearly 200 dead? What do you say to the Americans who are scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people.
Much like he learned from Roy Cohn, create the narrative, and it shows. President Trump is determined to downplay it, even as the death toll rises, as the world and major cities shut down, because he is a winner, a killer. From the start of the outbreak, Trump doubled down on his message that it was not so bad. During this pandemic, the death of George Floyd, who was killed by police, ignited a firestorm across America.
It's on the top.
I can't breathe for this, man. It's cold-blooded, man. Mom, I love you. I can't do nothing.
Yeah, EMS is on their way.
My face is gone.
Well, do you want to hobble at this point then?
I can't breathe, man.
Okay.
Please.
The weeks following, an extremely frustrated Black Lives Matter movement in America slowly created more unrest in the streets of America. Trump's approval ratings fell during this time. Outside the White House, protesters gathered, so President Trump went to the Rose Garden to fan the flames of division more.
His cries at peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
What Donald Trump did was create an enemy. He wanted to point to something and show he was what was stopping America from plunging into complete anarchy. He was in charge. As he spoke, a show of force formed outside the White House. The officers cleared the streets using gas dispersants and other means to clear peaceful protesters. Once the president left the Rose Garden, he crossed the street, being carried live across America for a photo op in front of the church. Really though, it was just a picture, an image of a president being in charge. Trump in charge. This election is like nothing we have seen before. Joe Biden, after a lifetime of fighting back and pushing on, now hopes to finally accomplish what he set out to do over 3 decades ago.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. We'll choose hope over fear, facts over fiction, fairness over privilege.
Donald Trump, who lives for the conflict, is prepared for another fight.
If the radical left takes power, they will apply their disastrous policies to every city, town, and suburb in America. Together we are unstoppable. Together we are unbeatable.
America now will decide between two candidates who both have had decades in the public eye. Emblems of a splintering nation. Both have fought hard to this moment. Now the nation must decide between them.